What's up, you guys? Steve here, and we need to have a serious talk about executive actions for enhanced unemployment and stimulus checks. As it's looking like that's pretty much going to be the only way we're going to see any provisions before elections. Since they're only 7 days away, all of Congress now is out on recess, and we have Larry Kudlow acknowledging the fact that stimulus package negotiations have slowed down, and even Nancy Pelosi is saying we will have an agreement when we have a new Congress or after the elections. So it's looking like executive actions might be our only way forward. Now, with that being said, a lot of people are asking, why has the president not yet issued executive actions when we have so many people in America hurting and in need at this time? Well, if anybody tells you the president doesn't have the legal authority to do this, or if they tell you the president does have the legal authority to do this, they are both right and wrong, as this is a very gray area. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the legality of this and also the strategy behind why we haven't seen an executive action yet. And I'm going to be diving a little bit deeper here and telling you that I believe there's only one of two reasons why we haven't seen this yet. And I believe we're going to find out in the next 7 days. So I'm going to be covering that in detail in this video. And if you like that, before we dive in, if you could just do me a quick favor, it'll just take a second. Smash the like button. I would appreciate it. It helps out the channel. Like button, comments, and sharing this video with people who might want to see it helps me out. Thank you so much. And also, if you want to stay up to date on everything, be sure to smash the subscribe button and the notification bell so that way as soon as I upload these videos, you can be notified right away. And I do believe there's going to be a lot of information rolling out in the next 7 days. Now, I'm going to do my best to make sure that I get videos up to keep you guys informed, but I wanted to let you know that this weekend I'm actually going to be out of town with the family. We're going to be visiting Houston, Texas for the first time. So if you're from Houston and you can recommend any good barbecue places or any places the family and I must enjoy on our first visit, please let me know. I would appreciate it. And also be sure to follow me on Instagram at SteveRam3. I story on there all the time. You'll be able to see our journey to Houston. But all right, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Just wanted to let you guys know we'll be out of town, but I'm going to do my best to get videos up to the channel. But now let's dive in and let's discuss potential executive actions. All right, you guys, so before we go forward, let's first take a step back so that way we can provide some context and understand the controversy of these executive actions. Now, on August 8th of 2020, the president issued 4 executive actions after it was discovered that the House, the Senate, and White House officials couldn't come to an agreement on a stimulus package. Now, of those 4, one was extremely controversial, and it was the one that reallocated $44 billion of FEMA's disaster relief funds into a program known as the Lost Wages Assistance Program, or LWA, to enhance unemployment benefits. As a matter of fact, it was so controversial that former Secretary of Labor Robert Reich tweeted out the following: "Your reminder that a president cannot spend taxpayer dollars by executive order." And he actually shared this on Facebook too with the caption, "That's not how this works." As a matter of fact, lawmakers from both sides criticized the president for his executive actions. We actually had a Republican call this unconstitutional slop. And we had Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi say that this was merely illusions that didn't even accomplish what he was setting out to do. Now, I'm going to dive into the legality of this very shortly. However, first, I want to draw your attention to something else the president did, which was about a month later in early September. He said that he found $300 billion of unused funds from the CARES Act that he wanted Congress to sign off to allow stimulus checks to go out to America. And he threatened, saying that there was a theory that he could do this without Congress, alluding to more executive actions. So first, let's take a look at that really quick.
We have $300 billion in an account that we didn't use, $300 billion, and we are willing to use that. I would be willing to release it subject to Congress and use that as stimulus money, and it would go right to the American people. So we have $300 billion sitting in an account that we didn't need because things are going so well with the economy. But it would be a very appropriate thing to release that to the American people, and I am willing to do it. All we need is a sign-off. Okay, please.
Thank you, President Trump. If I could first ask you a clarifying question about the $300 billion.
Yeah.
You've ruled out doing that unilaterally. You're going to wait for Congress to repurpose it for stimulus checks.
Yeah, what about it?
Oh, is that correct? You're waiting for
Well,
Congress?
I am. There's a theory that I can do it without the approval, but I'd rather get the approval so that we have it. But there's a theory I could take the $300 billion. It's money that we have, money that we've built up, and money that we haven't spent, and I would love to give it to the American people as a very powerful stimulus. So, yeah, I think there is a theory that I could do it without having to go back, but I think it would be appropriate to go back, and I would ask Congress to approve it.
All right, you guys, so there was the clip that got a lot of people excited at the thought of President Donald Trump doing an executive action to provide another round of stimulus checks. But now a lot of people are wondering, why hasn't he done it yet? Congress has failed to provide any sort of agreement on a stimulus package. Why hasn't he issued the order? And also, why hasn't he done this yet again for enhanced unemployment benefits since he did it before? Well, let's dive into what I believe might be the first of the two reasons why the president hasn't done this yet. All right, so the first reason, and give me a minute to explain this because I feel like there's a lot of people that have not fully explained this to you, is that this actually is going to be considered illegal. And if the president does this right now, especially during negotiations, this is very likely to get challenged and blocked and found that the president doesn't have the authority to issue. All right, now when the president first issued these executive memorandums, I heard a lot of legal experts come out and say that there was no way that this was going to get approved. That if this was challenged, there was 100% chance that this would get blocked and voided. Now, I'm going to read an excerpt here from one of those legal experts on what they said. It says, the U.S. Constitution grants Congress the power of the purse or the country's spending power, and constitutional law experts emphasize this means the president cannot spend money without congressional authorization, whether by executive order or presidential memorandum or anything else. However, Congress can provide money that is contingent on the president releasing it, in which case an executive order could release funds if that's what Congress called for. And that, however, was not the case in this situation. Now, like I said, when the president issued these executive actions, the vast majority of legal experts came out and said that there was no way that this was legal, and if challenged, they were very, very certain that it would be found unconstitutional. Now, I'm going to read you something else that was written here that states that the House could sue, or more likely states could sue, to get clarity on whether or not they would get paid. If states believe that this was unlawful and that the president didn't have the authority to issue a memorandum for unemployment because Congress had to provide for unemployment or disaster situations, and that the president was violating terms of Congress set out, then in that case, states could say, we're not going to go forward with this unless we have a court's decision that confirms that this is lawful, and that if we do, then we can get paid. Now, as you recall, the president's executive action did go through and nobody challenged him legally. And I'm going to play for you a clip where he acknowledges the fact that he might get sued. Somebody might challenge his authority to issue the executive action. But he said that at this time, Congress can't come to an agreement to allow provisions. So he said that he was going to do it. And he said that if anybody challenged his legal authority and tried to block his executive action, that that individual was evil, because he was trying to help hurting Americans at this time, and whoever did it would be stopping him from doing so. And when he said that, nobody wanted to be the person that would be helping the unemployed at this time, so nobody stepped up and blocked his executive action.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, though, this is expected to be tied up in the court, so this relief is either going to be delayed or blocked.
I don't think so. I think this is going to go very rapidly through the courts. This will go very, if we get sued, maybe we won't get sued. If we get sued, it's somebody that doesn't want people to get money. Okay, and that's not going to be a very popular thing.
Go around Congress. Are you trying to set a new precedent that the president can go around Congress and decide how money is collected?
You ever hear the word obstruction? They've obstructed. Congress has obstructed. The Democrats have obstructed people from getting desperately needed money.
All right, you guys, so there's that clip, and I think that pretty much lays the foundation for the first reason, which is that we need to address the fact that even though the executive memorandum for LWA was executed, it very well may have been illegal. And the only reason why it did not get blocked was because nobody was willing to challenge it in court. Now, I believe that all of Congress knows this. And with that being said, that means that if the president tries to step up and do this again, and they have any good reason to challenge him, they know that they could block him. So now, while negotiations for a stimulus package are taking place, if the president tries to step up and do an executive action for provisions, anybody in Congress could step up and say, no, we're going to challenge you and block you, and it will be found that it's unconstitutional for you to do that. because it's Congress's job. Let us do our job. We are currently negotiating. So I think one of the reasons could be the fact that he is well aware that he could get blocked while negotiations are taking place. And keep in mind the fact that the president actually issued the executive actions last time the day after Congress had announced that negotiations had failed and had stopped. And that's when he stepped in and issued those executive actions. Now, keep in mind the fact that the president, he can reallocate funds, but under specific situations. So I'm going to read some text for you to give you a little bit of background on that. It states that the claim that the president cannot spend taxpayer dollars by executive order is missing context. It's true that Congress has the power of the purse, so the president cannot spend money without Congress's appropriation of it. But there are scenarios by executive orders where he could redisperse funds, particularly from contingency funds. And Congress has given the president latitude to shift things around, which is what we saw potentially. It can be done even if considered unlawful. Well, you guys, as you can see, it's a very gray area, but it does sound like the president has some legal authority to reallocate existing funds through executive action if it has been appropriated to something similar and he has congressional approval to do so. Now, in this case, I don't know if he had both of those. I don't know if the disaster relief funds and unemployment are similar enough to say that they've been appropriated to the same thing. And I don't think he had congressional approval to do that. So it may have in fact been illegal. But now let's discuss the second reason, which I think is a little bit more obvious. I've heard several people suggest this, and that is that President Donald Trump could be holding out because it could be his last chance to really help him in the elections. Now, as you guys recall, when the CARES Act was passed and they provided stimulus to Americans, it was said that it boosted his approval rating several points. So maybe what he's waiting is to see if Nancy Pelosi and White House officials can come to an agreement and provide a stimulus package that will help him in the elections. And if they don't, then just this last week, as we're in these last 7 days, maybe he'll issue an executive action. And when people go to fill in those bubbles on their ballots, they'll remember that President Donald Trump said that he's going to be sending some more money to my pocket and it'll help him in the elections. Now, keep in mind the fact that he once again might get challenged, but when he's doing it this close to elections, if they try to block him right before, it's going to make them look very bad. But we'll see. So those are my two theories. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think it's one of these two? So I think that in the next 7 days, if we see an executive action roll out from President Donald Trump, that it was the second reason, and if we don't, that it was the first reason, that he believes that he can't do it at this time because he knows that he's going to get challenged. Well, you guys, that's my video on my thoughts on the executive actions. I hope it was informative and helpful, and I believe that if we're going to be seeing an executive action for stimulus checks or enhanced unemployment, it will be within the next 7 days. So I'll be sure to keep you guys posted here on the channel. And if you haven't already, once again, if you like these videos, smash the like button. I would appreciate it. And also, if you want to stay up to date on everything rolling out, smash the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you have any recommendations for places in Houston that I need to check out, please let me know. And also, be sure to follow me on Instagram at SteveRam3. Well, you guys, I hope this reaches you well. Have a blessed Tuesday. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.